Perfect. Well, how are you doing? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. You reached out to me on Facebook, and you mentioned that. Hold on, let me make sure I get this right because this was awesome, and I don't want to get it wrong. But you're the world's first female freelance Lego artist, right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you got to tell me that story. How does one be able to do that, and how did you do it?
Well, I'm actually the first American woman to work at Legoland as a master model builder
Wow.
first. And then I became a freelance Lego artist. So
Wow.
um, I've been a huge Lego fan my whole life. And as you can see from my background, this
Yeah.
is not a this is a picture. This is my actual studio. This is my Lego room. Um, so, and the entire, basically all four walls are just Lego, except for the one that's a window.
Right.
Um, and basically all I do is build Lego for a living.
Yeah.
Although it's a little bit slow right now because of COVID, so my business is a little bit slow right now.
Yeah.
Um, and just my cat up because he's really.
You're good.
Sorry, he's being particularly noisy right now, so.
you're, you're fine.
Sorry,
So
noisy.
yeah, you're good. So you started your Lego, your freelance Lego artist business. So what was that like?
Well, so like I said, originally I worked at Legoland. I
Right.
worked there for
Right.
5 years, four of them as a
Wow.
master model builder, which that literally was my childhood dream job.
That's awesome.
And what's funny is I didn't think I would actually ever get to do that dream job,
Yeah.
but then they built Legoland, California. And at the time I was living in California,
Uh,
about half an hour from Legoland. So, oh, hey, maybe I can actually do that as a job because
yeah.
it's right there. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was like, wait, maybe I can do this. Well, I actually applied 5 times over 2.5 years, and I didn't get a job.
Oh
I was like,
no.
okay, maybe that's not my path.
Yeah.
Well, what I found out later was that it's actually an unspoken rule, but they don't hire people that sound too much like. if
This sound too much like what?
if you sound too much like a Lego fan, like you're too excited and you say, "Oh, I
Oh,
really love Lego and everything,"
wow.
they
Yeah.
actually that actually is a mark against you in a sense.
Yeah.
Especially this was almost 20 years ago or over 20
Yeah.
years ago. So um, that's changed a little bit now because they realize that Lego fans are actually some. That's why a lot of the
Yeah.
newer set designers who are actually I know quite a lot of the set designers now that work for Lego in Denmark, and
Yeah.
a lot of the newer
Wow.
ones are fans because they realize that Lego fans are some of the best designers
Yeah.
because they make better models
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
um, so some of the neat models that are coming Lego now, the reason they're coming out now is because the fans are creating them basically. They just work for the
Wow.
company. And so after, applying 5 times, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to get a job there. But then basically completely on a whim, I applied for a sixth time for a spring break job, just for like a retail job there. And I was like, what, why not? It's
Yeah.
because of course now spring break lasts longer and everything, but back then it was only a 2-week job, and I was like, okay, why not? I'll just apply for 2 weeks, and I got hired because I'd already had previous retail experience, and also I actually did work very briefly for Lego as a retail merchandiser, which is when you go and stock the shelves and clean them up at like Target and
Hmm.
uh, still existed and that kind of stuff, in '98 for the winter season. So because I had that experience, they were like, oh, she knows some about that. So, but within the 2 weeks that I got working at retail, I got known as the Lego lady because I'm such a huge Lego fan. I actually I knew more about the Lego than the rest of the retail department combined.
Oh, wow.
And when I went to education, I actually knew more than the orientation person that was teaching the class. And I could answer the 10 questions that they give you that they're teaching you before they teach the class, because I didn't need that class,
Yeah.
because I literally have been soaking up Lego knowledge since I was a kid. Like
Wow.
I know basic like random facts, like what pieces come from what sets, what colors they come, how long they've been around, like really
Yeah.
random things.
Yeah.
And not just about the pieces, but like the themes, when the different theme parks came out,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. And so I'm kind of like a Lego historian just as a side effect. And so I got known as the Lego lady, and so they immediately put me as part-time. And so I was like,
Wow.
hey, maybe my foot's in the door, I can maybe master builder. And they said nobody moves from retail to the model shop. That's
Yeah.
impossible. Nobody's done that. Plus, it was only men in the model shop because there had been one woman that had worked there, but she was from Denmark.
Yeah.
So she was from the motherland basically, and she had
Oh,
already left.
geez.
And so there was nobody there. They were like, there's no way you're going to move to reach the model shop. But I was like, almost like took it as a challenge. And I was like, watch me. And
Right.
also
Right.
because I'm actually a really good reverse engineer. So I would spend time before and after my shifts uh, literally studying the models in the park. Like I would walk around and I would study how a model was made and break it up in my head and reverse engineer it and make it and then figure out if
Yeah.
and then I actually boldly, because you're also not supposed to do this, but I actually walked into the model shop one day and I showed them what I had, like a little portfolio I'd made. And I asked them, what do I need to do to make models like you do to get a job here?
Yeah.
And they said you needed to like make a Lego ball, make some Lego, like a mini land scale, which is the little miniature cities in the mini land area, make some sculptures, make some mosaics and stuff like that. And so I said, okay. So I started seeing and making some models like that I'd never really built before, because I mostly made the little ones, like the little figures that are
Yeah.
in the sets.
Yeah.
And but then I also found out in October that year, and this was in 2002. So like this has been a while.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
That there was a job opening in January of 2003 for what's called a model gluer, which is like the lowest rung of the model shop, where literally all you're doing is copying other people's models.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I've got 3 months to make a really killer portfolio. And so that's what I did. I made a killer portfolio. And this was before any of those national model builder searches. It was the really famous one that happened the year after that, which is where Nathan Swayep, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's the really famous guy that made
Yeah.
like the yellow model that's got the bursting chest and everything like that.
Wow.
That happened the year after that.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is an internal model builder search, just for inside or internal search. So it was just a regular job hire
Yeah.
in the park. So there was not as many applicants, because the other one was like national search. There were, probably hundreds of applicants, and they did
Sure.
all the TV spots and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so yeah, when I applied, I made a killer portfolio. I made a Lego ball. I made a mini land scale comic book shop.
Oh,
I
wow.
made like a giant mermaid. I made some mosaics. So of course I got the job,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And So, and like, what's funny is even though it was a cool job and it was my dream job, because I was a woman,
Yeah.
because I looked a lot younger than because I look younger than I actually am. I always have.
Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
was in my 20s then. I looked in like 15 or 12
Yeah, sure,
then.
sure.
So they kind of treated me like crap for about 6 months.
Wow.
Just in like the STEM industry kind of thing.
Right.
So like for the first 6 months, it was not a good experience entirely. But I kind of stuck through it. And I actually, after about 6 months, I started realizing because of all my knowledge of Lego, even though I wasn't actually as good of a builder back then, because I didn't become magically a master model builder. It took
Right.
me 3 or 4, it took me 2 or 3 to become a fully trained master builder at the park, because it's kind of on the job training. And you can learn the skills not working at the park there, but it
Right.
helps if you're just sitting there 40 hours a week every day and all you're doing is playing with Lego bricks. Of course you're going to get better at it, right?
Yeah, yeah, for real.
And of course if you have good Lego skills and good artistic skills, because you kind of have to be a builder, you have to be a combination of an architect, an artist, and an engineer all in one package.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
because people don't realize there's a lot of engineering involved, especially for the really large models, because there's like literally metal armatures that you have to think about, and there's
Whoa.
wiring, and there's you have to think about how are you going to install it into the ground, and are you going to have any animation, to have an animation department, but you still have to work with them hand
Yeah.
in hand to figure out how things are going. So there was all that. And so, it took, like I said, it took a few years to get there. And
Wow.
I did it for 4 years and I really enjoyed it, but I got kind of tired of the corporate grind, because even though it was a fun job, it was
Yeah.
still in a corporate setting. So
Wow.
I
Interesting.
decided to, after working there for 5 years total, I decided I want to move on. And I decided I really actually was not planning on a second career in Lego.
Okay.
I was just kind of done with working at Legoland. And
Yeah.
so I quit. And it was weird because about a month after or about a month before my 30th birthday, after I'd already quit, because I quit in February and like was a month later or something, because my birthday's in April.
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night and it was like a dream slash vision of a Lego instruction book. And it wasn't just the idea, it was the whole book was laid out in front of me in this dream. And it was how to make the book, write it and illustrate it and everything, of how to do do the whole layout. It was
Yeah.
like, you have to write this book on and it's called How to Build a Round Ball with Screw-Up Bricks.
Oh, wow.
And so I wrote this Lego book, and it took me about a year. And I literally had no idea how to make a book, how to make Lego
Right.
instructions, because there's a couple programs out there that you can do it with,
Yeah.
but it's not like you can instantly do it. It's because it's kind of like a CAD program, and it's not instantly easy to do
No,
that either.
no
So I had to
kidding.
learn InDesign and what's called LDraw, which is a freeware program,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
all these different programs to do it. But it was kind of like a God sent vision of, you have to go down this path, and if you're not going down this path, you're going the wrong way. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And so I wrote this book, and then I actually do sell that on my as an ebook on my Etsy shop,
Okay.
at foldedfancy.com. And then and you can also get it through my website, modelbuildingsecrets.com. There's a link to that.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so I made that book, and then I happened to be at San Diego Comic-Con promoting my book, just on the sly, not like officially or anything.
Sure, sure.
at the Lego booth because I had, lots of friends and connections through Lego still. And this was, let's see, it was in 2007 or 8, I think, 2008. And I was talking to someone from Warner Brothers because they were promoting the first Lego Batman video game.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
he was like, you know what, let me introduce you to someone from our marketing department. And so started talking to them, and they ended up hiring me to make a 2-foot mosaic of their cover art for the video game.
Wow.
And not just making it, they hired me to make it on site for their launch party in New York.
No.
At the
That's awesome.
Natural History Museum.
What?
And so, yeah. And so I'm like, wait, somebody's paying me to fly to New York City just to build a mosaic. Wait, that I could do this for a career, maybe.
No kidding.
And so that's kind of launched. That was like the thing that launched my career.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if I got those all the time, I'd be, financially fine.
Sure,
but I don't get them all the time.
Right,
but,
right.
I do them a lot. So I do make.
Yeah.
I have worked for Google several times. I've
Wow.
a 5-foot Chrome logo for Google. That's actually still in their offices somewhere. I've done. I actually made a Lego version of the Hidden Figures poster. The movie poster.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was specifically hired because they want a woman minority engineer to make it.
Okay.
Which was awesome. And I even got contacted by 2 of the movie stars because they thought it was awesome.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That's awesome. Holy crap.
So yeah,
so
I
cool.
made like a 6-foot version of the California Science Academy in San Francisco.
Whoa.
A couple years ago, I actually made, here in Salt Lake, I made the Cathedral of the Madeleine for the Leonardo Museum. And that was 5 feet long.
Out of Lego, like out of Legos.
Out of Lego.
Well, okay, yeah. real quick, because I love listening to this story. Like I've been like seriously captivated the whole time. But so you've mentioned some of these movies, Google, Warner Brothers. You mentioned some of the things here in Salt Lake. Why would they want Legos? I'm just curious about that. Or is it easier?
Google loves Lego because
no way.
It's just awesome. So Google's and several other Lego artists to make various things over the years. Like I said, I've done their Chrome logo. I've also done, because they have a thing called Gravity Games, which is a challenge they have for students or something. Yeah. So the last 3 years, I think I've done 5 sets of trophies for them.
Whoa.
Out of Lego.
Wow.
But also just a lot of people, I've also done trophies for LinkedIn as well, for 2 or 3 years, because they just like Lego because it's fun.
Yeah.
And it harkens back to your childhood.
Right.
But it's not always, sometimes it's just because it's cool, because with the cathedral, there was they were doing a Lego type exhibit for the Leonardo.
Okay.
And the other, they had a few other iconic buildings and structures for Salt Lake, but the other ones were built by hobby Lego builders, so they weren't like the cathedral ended up being. So they didn't quite understand when they hired me to do it. Now, obviously, mine cost a lot more than
some of the hobbyists, right?
Because, like I said, it was 50,000. It ended up being 5 feet long and
it was. Wait, hold on.
Tall.
We're through Zoom, so that's why this is a little tough. But you cut out there. How many Legos was it?
It was 50,000 pieces.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
If you go to my website, you can see the pictures from it. There's a link to my Flickr portfolio of it.
Really?
So you can see the on my link, there's my Flickr portfolio of my main, of like any of my
Yeah. Can
best pictures.
Give
But
me
also, if you go on my Flickr page, there's one that's just of the cathedral too.
Yeah. Let me ask, what's your website?
Model Building Secrets.
Modelbuildingsecrets.com.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. Modelbuildingsecrets.com. I'm holy cow. So there's let me see if I can, hold on. Let me see if I can see this real quick. But that's insane. So that's where you're at, and you build those, and you that's how you do it. You just go through Legos, and tell me a little bit about that.
People always ask me, like, do I use programs or something? So I do
Sure.
use Photoshop and I use Illustrator to get the scale.
Yeah.
But I don't actually use like because there are so when they do the large models at Legoland and stuff nowadays, they do use a program to make those large scale models.
Okay.
But we didn't do that when I worked there. We actually so I still do things by hand because I'm old school. It actually takes me longer to design something on a computer than it does to do it by hand. So
really?
The cathedral, also there's the problem with doing something like the cathedral is that there's a lot of techniques that if I tried to do it on the computer, because they're considered illegal, because there's well, what I mean by illegal is that it's not the normal way of putting the bricks together.
Okay.
They're going like not this way or this way. They're going like at a weird angle or something.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the cathedral, there's like the big stained glass windows in the front.
Okay.
Or on the side, and there is really weird things going on. Well, part of that because I've actually either cut or altered some pieces to make it work.
Okay.
And see, now when I worked at Legoland, you couldn't do that because obviously you don't want to make something that the rule is if you can't do it at home without gluing it or altering it, then we can't do it at the park because then the kids can't.
Yeah, they couldn't replicate it. And I was going to ask you that. So are a lot of your pieces like glued together? Is there some kind of adhesive that keeps them that way for a long time, or?
Yes. So I actually use a solvent. It's not a actual glue. So what it is it's a chemical solvent that melts the plastic together.
Oh, wow.
It's not something I recommend anybody use unless they know what they're doing because it's very toxic, very flammable.
Yeah. Well, and I bet it's very permanent.
It's very permanent. Yes. And it actually damages the brick. So if you don't know what you're doing, it also like has a different sheen to it. So it kind of, you can see it if it like gets on the edges and stuff. So if you're not careful, it can look really bad.
Okay.
You have to again take because see, now I've been doing Lego building for like the last 18 years professionally.
No kidding.
So now I can I do it. I mean, I still get little spills and but I know how to fix it or like replace it and that kind of stuff.
Can you see what I'm sharing on my screen right now?
Yes.
So this is the one you did for the cathedral?
Yes.
Holy cow. So how long did this one take you, this cathedral here?
It took me, now, because I was actually building part of it at the public was watching, it took me longer than it would in
so you built it you built it live, like part of it at least live.
I built part of it live, yes.
Holy cow.
So it took me several months actually there, but if I built it at my studio, it'd probably take me about 4 to 5 months here.
Okay.
But there it took me like I want to say it was like 9 months because it was live and there were people asking me questions while I was doing, and it's a lot
Yeah.
harder to do it when people are asking you, and
Yeah. Well,
you
yeah,
don't
I'm sure
have your
anything's
whole,
harder.
well, you don't have your whole studio of parts right there and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Because I had to
yeah.
bring my parts down there and that kind of stuff. So it was more complicated.
Holy cow. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Like I would have never, like when you reached out to me, I was like, that is insane. And the detail is okay. So you made this for Square?
Yeah. So that's a 9.5 by 4 foot wall
Oh my
for a
goodness.
booth at a convention. And I actually had to make it so that they could screw it to the wall. So it actually was in like
Whoa.
big puzzle sections in a sense. So
Yeah.
they could
Yeah.
literally attach it to the wall, and then the
So,
square lettering could
yeah.
pop onto it. And then
No
the all
way.
the little colored pieces were literally just people were building on the wall. So it was a giant white wall, basically.
And people would, and so, and I'm assuming all the little stuff around it is where people put on their own stuff.
Yeah, so I built
Oh
the
wow.
square logo and then the white wall, but I built that in 1 week.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Holy. So and I guess this is what I was looking for. Like a lot of people like really like Square. Did Square send you a contract like that
yeah.
was like, hey, do this?
Hmm.
And it's just the nostalgia feeling, like someone like Square, like everybody uses Square. Like I use Square
Yeah.
for, all of my little side gigs that I have, right, that I'm taking payments for.
Hmm.
And this is okay. So this is a Batman one.
Yeah, I did that for fun.
Okay. Okay. But wait, hold on here. Hold on. What's this? Is this one just for
So
fun?
that is actually the base of the Hidden Figure poster.
Okay. So
You
it's
can
this one
barely
right
see
here.
it. See at the bottom where the woman
Oh
says
yeah.
standing?
Yeah. Look at that.
So normally my mosaics, like the Batman one, you can see there's no studs showing because it
Sure.
looks cleaner and it looks really nice.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the VP of marketing for Warner Brothers wanted the studs showing because then it looks like Lego, quote unquote. Problem
Wow.
is if the studs are showing completely,
Yeah.
then it looks like a 10-year-old had done it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I had to do what I call mosaic. So it's a combination of my normal mosaics, which are studs,
Yeah.
which are called snot mosaics, which is studs not on top, where the bricks are sideways and turned. And a
Sure.
lot of that is there's actually a math to Lego, and you can turn Lego sideways and manipulate it so that there's not a lot of like altering or cutting of bricks where it actually fits
Right.
in place.
Right.
There is a little bit of altering with the NASA sign just because of things,
Yeah.
but yeah. Now that's
Yeah.
a 4 foot long,
This one.
50,000. I think that was also a 50,000 piece model. 50
Wow.
pound. That was for PAX East in Boston 2 years
Wow.
ago.
Yeah. So that's what, and people just like, and so these companies will just hire you to do, I see a 9/11 one,
Yeah, the
right?
9/11 one I made, that was a project just for the 10th anniversary,
Yeah, yeah.
because I love that picture.
Yeah, that no, it's a great picture. But look at some of these. Oh, this is the one you did for Google?
Yeah, so that was
Oh my
actually
goodness.
it was actually a team building event. So I designed it,
Okay.
and then they actually built it. Um,
Wow.
so they were able to build. It was also kind of like a paint by number in a sense. So they
Yeah.
had sections that were about 5 inches square that they could build,
Right.
and then they could assemble the 5 foot square thing.
Wow. So I wanted to pull those up because I was just
Mhm.
like, so you got Google, you got the movie produce, you got Warner Brothers, you got all these people reaching out to you, telling you to build Legos for this kind of like nostalgic effect, right?
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes they just
Yeah.
want something cool and fun. But
And
yeah,
and it is cool and fun. And
yeah,
they call you. And have you been able to get? I mean, you mentioned that COVID kind of slowed everything down, which I mean
yeah.
makes sense. But like, how do you go about getting like your clients?
So some of it's word of mouth because
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of
so
course.
there's another company, there's several other companies that do Lego related things that aren't like, there's a company that's
Yeah.
called Citizenberg that makes pad printed minifigures and
Okay.
printed stuff. So they're pretty famous because they made some things that went really viral. So
Okay.
like one of the things they made was like basically the meth lab from Breaking Bad
Oh wow.
as a kid. And it went like super viral, like it went on the
Yeah.
news and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he's kind of willing to break a lot of the things that Lego would never make, basically.
Right. Right. Yeah. They would never do that.
He didn't call it the meth lab, of course, from Breaking Bad, but everyone knows what it is,
Yeah.
basically. Um,
Wow.
and
Holy
so
cow.
sometimes he'll send people to me because he doesn't do models. He just does mostly he just does printing, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So, and he's a really good friend of mine. So he just
Okay.
sometimes he sends stuff to me, and there's a few other companies like that that send referrals to me. But
Wow.
sometimes they find me through my website. And sometimes like, cause like, again, because of COVID,
Yeah.
there's none of it happening right now, but
Right.
I usually go to about 8 to 10 Lego conventions throughout the year.
And there's a lot of
That are all
there's a lot of
throughout.
Lego conventions.
Oh yes, they're all throughout the States. Like
Wow.
if it wasn't
That's
COVID,
awesome.
there's one in Seattle that happens every year, but this year,
Okay.
of course, we're going virtual, called
Sure.
BrickCon, that I would literally in the next couple of weeks, of course,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
because I've been going for like over a decade, but
Yeah.
sadly we're all doing it virtually.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all over the US, and so I go, especially on the West Coast. Normally I travel all over the West Coast and go to all these conventions. In fact, right before COVID hit, I went to the one in Portland like
Okay.
the first weekend of
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we had like 12,000 people there. And I don't know if you saw the Lego Masters TV show or
You know what?
heard
I've
about
heard it.
that.
I didn't watch it, but I heard about it. I saw like commercials and advertisements.
Right. So
Yeah.
we actually managed to get about half of the cast to come to the show or to the
Holy
convention.
cow. Yeah. Holy
And see,
cow.
I actually know a good portion of the cast. In fact, I couldn't actually be on the show. I've actually had people ask me, like, why didn't you get on the show?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't be on the show because I'm overqualified.
Oh.
Um,
No kidding. Holy
yeah.
cow.
So the reason I'm
Yeah.
overqualified is one, because I worked at Legoland as a master builder.
Yeah.
So like they originally contacted me, like I didn't apply.
Right.
They contacted me because they were
Okay.
looking for, especially they really wanted some women builders on the show.
Okay.
And I fit a lot of the categories because I'm a woman minority,
Yeah.
because I'm half Japanese.
Okay.
And so they were like, oh, we really want you, on the show. But then
Yeah.
because I'm worked for Lego, they're like, oh, unfortunately the lawyer said we can't have you on. But
No kid. Their lawyer said they couldn't have you on?
the lawyer said I couldn't be on.
Holy cow.
But what's funny, I actually almost got on the original first season of the UK show
Okay.
as a judge,
Oh,
as a
wow.
guest judge.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I not only do I know the American judge, Jamie Berard, because I've known him
Yeah.
since the original, like I said, about the National Model Builder Search that they
Yeah.
happened to have in 2004 or whatever it was.
Right, right, right.
He actually was one of the 25 finalists back then. I've known him since
Wow.
then.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Holy
then
cow.
but I also know the UK judge
Okay.
and the Australian judge,
Yeah.
because there's not actually that many of us that are professional builders.
Right.
And there's
I
not
would
that
assume
many.
I would assume that the professional building Lego building is a smaller community.
Right. So there are about 20 or 30 people in the world that do this. There are a couple of women
Wow.
that do it.
Wow.
But the thing is that since there's so few of us in the world, obviously most of us know each other.
Yeah.
and then of course, like I said, I also know most of the set designers, which Jamie Berard is a set designer.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
like I said, I've known him since he applied at Legoland 16 years ago. So I've literally known him forever.
Yeah.
So I kind of interest in on many ways anyways. So I would actually have preferred to be on as a judge than as a
Yeah.
contestant, because actually what's funny is the funny thing about that show is that even though for most people going on the show,
Yeah.
the whole thing about 10 hours to make this, or 20 hours
Yeah.
to build this, I've actually experienced practically in some form or another over my last 18-year career.
Right, right.
In a sense, we've had, we don't have like, we're going to win $100,000 at the end kind of thing, but
Right.
we have deadlines. When I worked at Legoland, we had, in fact, we even had like tight deadlines, especially, when we're opening a new area in the park.
Yeah.
So there were times where I would literally have to be, like that square thing is a good example.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
That square thing, they hired me and I had to get it to them in Portland, like by a specific day. So I had to like work, sometimes like, a 20-hour day in
Whoa.
1 week so I could get it done, because I
Wow.
normally try not to pack my, I try to do a normal like 8
Sure.
to 10 hour day,
Sure.
and not kill myself. But sometimes, the deadline's tight and I have to
Yeah, and you
do
got to
stuff.
go. Yeah.
And so the funny thing is that every challenge that they had on the show, I'm like, I've done
Yeah, I've done that. Well, that's probably why
something
the
like
lawyer
that.
said you couldn't come on the show, huh?
Well, they didn't think about that part, because like you really don't understand that until you've lived it, really. I mean,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the
Yeah.
stress of something like that, of working like when I worked at Legoland, I have worked 100-hour week so we could
Oh
open
my
up on Friday
goodness. So like a
for the
like
new
a new
area.
exhibit or something like that.
Yeah. Because, like,
Wow.
when they have like a new exhibit or
Yeah.
ride or
Yeah.
area of the park that's going to open up Friday, and that's the deadline. We've got the press coming and all that other stuff. I have worked
Wow.
there and been at the park at like from, gotten there at morning and stayed till like 5 in the morning or something stupid.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah,
So now this is your full-time career. This is what you do. This is how you make money.
this has been my full-time career for, like I said, since for the last 18 years. So,
That's
well,
so
13
nuts.
for freelance. So yeah.
Wow. So you got interested into Legos surely like the rest of us, right? You just saw
Oh yeah.
it was just cool. You saw them and you
Mhm.
just started building.
Yeah, I got him when I was a kid, like 6
Wow.
years old.
Yeah.
And the
Now,
funny thing is,
how did you
sorry, go ahead.
learn how did you learn how to become like a master builder? You went over a little bit, in your story. You were like, you mentioned you kind of started at the bottom and started going, but like really, where did you learn how to build? Like, where did you learn
It
that
was
skill?
really mostly at the park. I mean,
Okay.
because like I was a good, like I said, I'm a good reverse engineer though.
Right.
And so that's just of mine, because so before I worked there, like I could look at see, because one of the things that a real master builder can do
Yeah.
that is kind of getting to be a lost art, because I don't know if they do this anymore, but when
Sure.
I worked at the model shop, so I don't have it on my portfolio. I probably should have it, but I don't have it on there. But the pirate in the pirate band in California, that's a big fat pirate playing the flute.
Yeah.
So I built him based off of the one in England.
Holy
But they
cow.
didn't have, see, nowadays when they do it, they just literally can just email the plans, because it's a PDF in a sense, or
Yeah.
whatever program, that they can literally send you the plans and say, oh, here's the program or the file,
Wow.
and it's a right.
Yeah.
But that's not what it was like back then. They didn't have that. It was done by hand. So they
Yeah.
sent me, I think it was like 70 photographs from the bottom of his, literally bottom of his feet,
Yeah.
circling all the way around his body up to the top of his head.
Yeah.
I had to reverse engineer his body and figure out how to make his fingers move so that he could play the flute and his mustache to move up and down.
No kidding.
And change the color of his outfit
Oh my
to a
goodness.
different color.
Holy cow.
Right. And so
Wow.
that's why, like, the cathedral, because people are like, well, what program did you use? I didn't use a program. I literally went down to the cathedral one day.
Yeah.
I took about 250 photos of the cathedral from every angle that I could from the ground
Yeah.
and across the street.
Wow.
I also went on Google Earth and took like the top view photos, because once you know the because if you can figure out the width and the length and the height,
right,
you can, or width and the length, that you can figure out the height and everything. So that's how I know the exact scale. If it was making it 5 feet, I knew the exact scale it would be in a Lego. Now, obviously, it's going to be slightly different because there's,
sure,
you know, Lego constraints. So it might be an inch or a few fractions of an inch off, but it's
yeah,
going to be close enough, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
once
yeah,
you know the whole height is going to be, say, like 3 feet 2 inches or something, then you can start breaking it down into how big are the windows, how big are the
yeah,
doors,
right,
and then you go from that scale to start making the windows and doors and making everything else.
wow.
And that's how I literally made the whole building.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this, because I don't want to take your whole day, but what was
okay.
what was your favorite piece to build? What was your favorite project?
It's really difficult because they're so varied.
Yeah, I bet it is, but
See, most people don't have the ability to make like everything like I can.
right.
Like I'm still not as like really good at sculptures
Yeah.
on a big scale. Like I have a giant ladybug that I love that I made, even though it was one of the hardest ones because I never had made a giant sculpture before.
Right, right.
And what's funny is
Wow.
that was the only one that I ended up doing the shell in that 3D program that they use now, because it was right at the cusp of, we were just starting to use that program. So the shell was designed in that program, but his head and his legs weren't.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't think that model even exists at the park anymore, unfortunately. But he was a 4-foot long ladybug that I made.
Yeah, yeah.
At the same time, like the cathedral is literally one of the ultimate buildings I've ever built, because it is literally one of the most detailed, most complicated builds I've ever made. And what's funny is that not only did I make it the once for the museum, but I also made the entire front facade a second time.
Yeah, wow.
Because I actually took it to the Lego conventions for the whole year. So I wanted to be able to show it, but I couldn't bring the whole thing because it was 5 feet long. And see, not only is it 5 feet long, but it's also like about 120 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
well, you know what? Now that you say that, like Legos are heavy. Yeah. That makes sense.
So like that cathedral in the museum actually comes apart into 3 sections. So it's easier to move.
Yeah.
You have, like I said, there's engineering involved. So you have to design it so that not only can I move it, but other people can move it. So that section comes apart into the front facade section, the staircase, and then the back section, and then the very back of it comes apart. So, or 4 sections, I think. So and it's easier to move around, so that like basically anybody theoretically can move it without damaging it too much.
Wow.
But then so I actually made it a second time, the whole front facade with the staircase, because that's the most stunning part of the building.
Right.
And I traveled around with it throughout the whole West Coast, and I took it to Chicago, because there's a convention in Chicago that I go to every June.
Right.
So that was kind of fun, but it also takes up a lot of car space too. Even at just the front facade, it's still 3 feet tall and 2.5 feet wide. So
wow, holy cow. Well, Geez, this has been like one of the most fun conversations I've had in a long time. So I really appreciate you being here. But before we go, where do people, if you mentioned your website a couple times, I had it up on the video a couple times, but just tell us one more time, like, what's your website? How do people find you? Like, do you have a
So
social media account?
my website is Model Building Secrets. That's also my Instagram
Okay.
is Model Building Secrets.
Okay.
And then my Etsy is foldedfancy.com, which is also
Okay.
my other Instagram handle.
Okay.
I also I have both of those as Facebook pages as
Pages.
well.
Sweet.
And then I'm also on Twitter as Mariann Asanuma. So
Wow.
I'm pretty
Okay.
easy to
Well,
find.
yeah. Well, Mariann, thank you so much for joining me on
Sure.
this episode, and I really appreciate you being here. And wow, and just thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. I've had a great time.
Thank you.